welcome back to Living the Small Business Life. So a little bit of behind the scenes reality. We were having a discussion about our final episode and we did have some topics laid out. However, we've just been having a chat and we didn't quite feel right. So we've decided to go for something a bit different and we were having a chat about it. Ben is shaking his head. We'll come to that in a minute. We did have a little bit of a chat about it and then we were like, why are we not recording this? So now we are recording the chaos to keep it as an episode just for you. So I'm going to hand over to Ben, who has some questions.
Ben, are you? You're handing over to
Ben can explain
his artificial intelligence on how to run a podcast. Go on, Ben.
Yeah, well, I think AI is a big thing at the moment with everything going on in the world, and I started to use it in our business quite a bit for writing proposals and writing job descriptions. Not just using that, but give me a framework to go from. So I have come up with a load of questions through ChatGPT that I think will help shape this episode, and we'll just get into it and see how we go.
So now I'm being asked questions not by you.
Not by me.
So we can actually wheel you out now
and
just read off of this screen.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Ben is now AI,
AI.
And we're answering questions.
We can blur you out in the...
Who wants to go first?
Just ask the question.
Okay.
Just ask the question. Please. Go for it.
Okay. What is the one thing about being a business owner that most people wouldn't expect or understand?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What is the one thing about being a business owner that most people wouldn't expect or understand?
Oh, wow. That's quite a difficult one.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Wouldn't expect or understand. VAT bills. Most people wouldn't understand what a VAT bill is. Firstly, I don't know.
I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head there. I think it is admin. I think it is that kind of like the really boring stuff that nobody really told you about, because it is all like, running your own business, being an entrepreneur, hustle, and people want to buy into that kind of glam stuff. But then when you're like talking about, directorship or VAT bills or all the legal requirements that come with employing people and things like that, I think the nitty gritty is something that people don't really talk about much.
Yeah, I think that the general perception is that if you run your own business, you're free to do whatever you want when you want, and you don't answer to anybody, and that's the end of it. Well, you do answer to a lot of people. You answer to all your staff, firstly. And there are a lot of stresses that I think this whole podcast has been based around, that people don't see and don't expect. I think when you run your own business, I think everybody just thinks it's you're great because you run your own business and you get to do whatever you want when you want. I think that's the biggest thing. That's a rubbish question anyway. Have we got anything?
No, I mean, I was just going to elaborate on that. I just think it's relentless, like it really is. And I know we've talked about work-life balance, but every day's a school day. You're always learning, and I think that's a positive thing that you're always learning. But it is just so tough. It really is tough. And to start a small business in the UK at the moment, how many small businesses fail within the first year or first 2 years or first 5 years? Lots. I think people give up because they don't actually realise what they're getting involved into and how hard it is. And sometimes it can be so much work for so little reward to keep going and going through that. Resilience, exactly. Okay. Next question. Can you talk about a mentor or role model who's had a significant impact on your personal or professional development, or maybe inspired you to get into business?
That is a good one. I can't think of anything.
Who inspired me to get into business?
Yeah, so maybe, having worked at Phones for You corporate, and was it John Caldwell, and seeing what he created, and it inspired you to go off and do your own thing, or...
I don't think so. I genuinely believe if you've got it in you, you've got it in you. I don't think it's a difficult one, because I think sometimes you're a product of your environment. Yeah. And if you're in an environment at the time that dictates that you are going to go off and run your own business, then I think that's what happens. And I think that you're either built to run a business as an individual, and that individual can look like many types of people, or you're not. It's as simple as that. I don't think it's was there someone, a role model that I looked up to? No, not really. Yes, I've looked up at people, in my life, but I've never, looked at one particular person and gone, wow, he was a great business person, I really want to be like him. No. I started our business simply because my business partner wanted to start a business and we ended up starting one. It was as simple as that. Nothing more. Yeah. Really?
I don't think there's like one person, but I think I continuously find people around me that I find inspiring. Like, that absolutely happens to me. Like, one of the projects that I'm working on at the moment, the person that's driving it, they're brilliant. They're just great, and they are just this magic energy to be around. And I'm
really appreciate that.
It's all good. And I think, and I definitely spend time reflecting on why do I think that? What is it that this person does that I could, do in my own work that would maybe bring that to somebody else's project or whatever it is. And I think I often find people like that around me, like, you always want to hang with the cool kids, don't you? And I think I often do projects and I'm like, you're the cool kids, want to be like you. Yeah, that happens quite a lot.
I'll tell you something, just off the back of our previous episodes, I mentioned that 4 people have reached out to me. Those 4 people know who they are if they've listened to the pod.
Yeah.
They were really inspiring to talk to. And all 4 of those people actually run businesses, and it was really nice to connect with those people after such a long time and talk about their trials and tribulations of their business. And they inspired me. Yeah. They inspired me.
I think that's a good point as well, because I think often when you talk about, like, so you're, that question saying, like, what one person, and I think you automatically go to this person up here who's done all of these things. Whereas actually, like, you've just described a situation where those people are peers. They're on, they're doing what you're doing. And I don't think it often has to be like this one person. It can be like this community.
I employed those people, and now they're running their own businesses.
Yeah.
So that's quite
in an environment where running your own business. What about you, Ben?
I just think for me, I always had a bit of an itch that needed scratching, and I didn't, working for somebody else, it just wasn't fulfilling.
Yeah.
But actually, I would say, even though he never ran his own business, my dad, and I know that sounds maybe a bit soft, I don't know, but
not at all.
I
was like, no, not at all. It's lovely.
But my dad said to me,
sorry, Ben's dad.
My dad said to me that he always wished he'd taken a risk when he was younger. So he worked in the police force for 30 years, worked his way up through the ranks and stuff like that. But I remember him almost like marking crosses on the calendar down to retirement. He knew he was doing his 30 years service, he was going to get his pension, all of that sort of stuff. And I saw that and how that impacted him and how he ended up hating what he was doing, and he was literally counting down the days. And I just always remember him saying to me, I wish I'd taken a risk when I was younger and just tried something. And actually, Mick, your business partner, he's got a line, something about you're better to regret something you tried than something you didn't, or something like that. And that always stuck in my head as well. So I would just say it's a combination of things, not feeling fulfilled working for somebody else, seeing that my dad, always said to me, I wish I'd taken a risk when I was younger, maybe tried starting doing my own business or something like that. And just things like that are sort of all fed into me wanting to do my own thing, I think. Okay.
This is going really well. Yeah. Come on, next question.
Okay. I don't like this thing. I hate it.
You don't like it. I'm really enjoying it. But I feel like I'm going to be out of a job soon, though. Like, everyone's just going to use this for podcast outlines.
I need a light on my head as soon as you ask a question.
Okay. Can you share a time when you had to make a difficult decision that challenged your values or beliefs?
I'm going to go straight in on this one because for me, I think we just discussed my one. So in the episode that we just recorded, we were talking about me being a chair of governors and having stepped down recently. And I think the reason that I would say that decision, I suppose, around values was that I did have a plan to step down over time. So by the end of this year, I would have stepped down anyway, but something happened that made me do it sooner. And I think that definitely made me reflect on, like, why am I actually doing this? You know, what is it? And, you know, there's all those kind of feelings that I think you often feel around small business as well. Am I letting people down? Am I quitting? And I don't think quitting is necessarily a bad thing, but quitting in the sense of, am I walking away from something that I haven't given a good enough shot to?
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, that kind of throwing in the towel, rather than, have I actually exhausted all my options here? Is stopping doing this the right decision? So yeah, I think that would be one for me.
What about you?
Go on, read it out again. I'm just trying to think about that.
Can you share a time when
Yeah.
you had to make a difficult decision that challenged your values or beliefs?
Yes.
Come on, then.
I was going to say, are you elaborating, or is it just become a yes? Next question.
I will share.
Okay. So we had an employee many moons ago who went out on a night out and made a fatal mistake by having too much to drink, got in a company vehicle,
Oh no.
and smashed the company vehicle into some railings.
Was it branded, the vehicle?
No. It was actually a rent-a-car, believe it or not. So we were quite lucky in that respect. Unlucky no one was injured at the time, obviously, as well. My beliefs are that I don't believe in drink driving. And my beliefs were that those I should have, in normal circumstances, fired that individual. However, I didn't. And that was probably one of the best decisions I made in business, because that individual went on to be very successful, learned from his mistake, massively so, and has gone on to run his own business, and provided for his family and so on and so forth. So I think, yeah, it challenged my beliefs, because, you know, I should have got rid of him. And it was a difficult decision to make, because at the time we had a lot of staff. And you can't keep something like that under wraps.
No, absolutely.
You know, that is spread across the whole business. And to make that type of judgment, knowing that, you know, A, that situation could happen again. And if you did make the other choice, then that individual, you know, is going to say, well, hang on a minute, you didn't do it for him, but you did it for him. So it was a difficult decision to make. But, you know, I backed that member of staff, and he went on to do very well. And like I said, he's running his own business, and I'm sure he'd never make that decision again. But yeah, that's probably one that sticks out for me.
Ben?
You're going to know what my most difficult decision has been,
I know.
aren't you? Yeah. So mine was about 10, 11 months ago. 10 months ago.
Well, it's coming up in it, April, May.
Yeah. And that was to part ways with my business partner.
Yeah.
So a few mistakes were being made, and balls were being dropped, particularly around some finances and things like that. And this individual had some personal problems going on at the time, and which, you know, I won't get into, but it was starting to really impact the business and impact the team that he was responsible for. And in terms of like it challenging my values or beliefs, you know, we started this thing together, and, you know, we were in it together, and we had each other's backs, and, you know, we were gonna go through on this journey together. And a decision actually had to be made where this like has got to stop now, and it's actually impacting me, it's impacting the team, it's impacting our clients, and ultimately we might not have a business if this carries on. And a difficult conversation had to be had, and I was actually even worried about, if this doesn't work, how am I going to pay my mortgage? You know, all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, I sought some advice, spoke to, you know, other shareholders within the business that were involved, and after that conversation, it was the right thing for that person. You know, he actually didn't have the headspace anymore to, with the personal problems going on and things going on in his life, to actually be able to run a business as well. It was just too all consuming. And speaking to him recently, he's like, this is just what I needed. So a positive came out of it for the business, for him, for me, and for other people that have then fulfilled that role going forwards as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, but it was such a difficult decision to make at the time. I mean, I didn't sleep for 3 or 4 days, I don't think.
Yeah.
Things going on, how are we going to have
Can
this
imagine.
conversation? So that has been the biggest decision that I've had to make, definitely. So can you talk about a valuable lesson you've learned from a mistake in your business journey?
I'm trying to think of something specific. And that's the difficult thing, isn't it? Actually, okay, so it's quite a recent one as well. So I'm working on a project and essentially when we were having the initial chat about the project, Move Digital, we weren't really in a position to take it on wholly ourselves. And so what we did was we found somebody else that we could work with on the project, which was a fantastic solution at the time, because it enabled us to obviously keep the contact with the client, but at the same time, and I got to work on a fantastic project, so brilliant. But at the same time, you know, we could still deliver in some form. And they asked me to stay on the project, which was great. But in the last sort of few weeks, we've essentially had an issue where the person that I introduced has been doing things that are just very less than ideal, and it's caused a problem with the client. And I think it sort of feels like I made a mistake. It feels like, although I made the best decision at the time when the project came in through the door, and it absolutely was the best way forward, it's made me feel like I made a mistake to introduce this person to the client, which is really difficult, because I think whenever you make a mistake, you really kick yourself. And I think what I've learned from it is something that I probably already knew, but it's always good to be reminded, and that is communication is key. I think essentially we ended up in a situation where we weren't all talking together. We had got to a stage where certain things weren't ideal, but we'd use that as a reason to not continue communicating effectively, rather than just hash it out there and then.
Yeah.
And actually that's kind of, you know, what's now caused this problem. And I feel like every step through the process, we sort of made the best decision we could at the time, but it ended up feeling like a mistake. And I think the thing that I've learned from it is, you know, that it's never too early to tackle something that just doesn't quite feel right. You're never too early to just be a bit like, oh, that hasn't really, you know, hands up, okay, that hasn't really gone how I thought. Can we just have a quick chat about that? Because I think we maybe, I think I could potentially have headed it off or done it differently a couple of months ago that might not have put us in this situation.
So how's it been left with the client?
So we found a way forward with the client, and we are going to be able to get through to the end of the project. But again, the relationship doesn't quite feel the same coming into the end of the project. I'll be honest about that. I still think we've delivered a good project, and I think the client is very happy with it. But yeah, it has affected that tail end. Yeah, that is a really good word.
Yeah,
I think it's affected the tail end of the project, and that's a real shame.
Valuable lesson you've learned from the mistake?
I work with an individual, or an individual was employed by our business since the very beginning. And cut a very long story short, he worked with us
Really? That's not like you.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. He worked with us for a very long time, and I think that stagnant feeling got into me and this individual in the business, and it sort of come to a blows, and we parted company. Probably the worst decision. We both made the decision. It was a mutual decision, but I think that was probably the worst decision for us. Not necessarily him, because I still communicate with that individual on a weekly basis. Still have a lot of contact with him in football, in outside of work, in football. I think for our business, it was a huge mistake. For him personally, it was the best thing that happened to him, and he's done very well for himself. He's been very successful. But yeah, I think I should have kept him, or gone out of my way to keep him, which I didn't do, which is a shame. But you know, everything happens for a reason, and that's business, isn't it? You make mistakes. Anyway, what's this
What about? Oh no, I was going to say Ben hasn't. Ben gets to get.
No, he's
one.
the quizmaster. He doesn't get to answer.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't get off scot-free, Ben.
The biggest lesson that I've learned has been, again, over the last 12 months, and that is around being on top of your cash flow. And
well, that was your mistake. You weren't on top of your cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. So we've done elements where we were quite good with it, but then we took our eye off the ball with it, and it come to a month where it was like, we're going to run out of money. We've got VAT bill to pay. We've got PAYE HMRC to pay. You know, it's about 30 grand. And then we've got a wage bill of 25, 30 grand going out the door as well. And we don't have any money. And that has probably been the biggest kick up the bum I've ever had. I do that on a daily basis now. My cash flow, what's the end of month balance going to look like? I'm looking at it to the next month, and I think we've touched on cash flow on a previous episode anyway, but it's something that I keep on top of a daily basis. What money's coming out today, what money's coming in today, and what's it looking like at the end of the month. And just keeping on top of that every day gives you it just gives you peace of mind. And when you've got direct debits maybe coming out all over the place, and you've forgotten about that coming out because you've not put it into your cash flow sheet, or, you know, and then all of a sudden £5,000 bill comes out and you're like, oh, forgot about that. You know, I am on it every day. First thing I do every day. So that's been the biggest thing. And you know, to make decisions and things that you need to do about maybe spending money or bringing in new members of the team or whatever it be, you've got to know what's coming in and what's going out. And we didn't have a clue at one point. And we just saw the bank balance going down and down and down. Luckily, we actually dropped a couple of deals in and turned it around very quickly. But it was, what's going to happen at the end of this month? We're not going to be able to pay our staff. And we owe the VAT man money and HMRC money, and this isn't good. And it was very, very stressful. So that was the biggest thing that I've learned, and how I've moved forward with that. Okay, so next question. What advice would you give to your younger self at the beginning of your business journey? So you'd do it all again, or your children were about to start a business, what would be the number one thing you would say?
Just be you. Okay, so my advice to my younger self would be, going back to the episode where we discussed about work-life balance, would be to focus on the family more in my younger years than I did at that point in time. That would literally be the advice. Everything else will pretty much keep the same. Because I think half my problems in life generally come from not having that work-life balance. It was work, and then I realised all of a sudden it's 20 years have flown by, and like I said in the other episode, you know, time is a commodity. You can't go down the bank and go, oh, can I buy another 10 years, please? Oh, and wind back the clock 10 years, so my body's 10 years younger, and I'm this and I'm that. Yeah, I would definitely say that's the biggest bit of advice, is organise that work-life balance at a younger age, and not think that work-life balance involves work being your outside life.
I think I would tell my younger self, all the rules are made up. And what I mean by that is, you know, you do not have to do anything how anyone else is doing it. And I wish that I had come... well, it's twofold. I wish that I think I knew that, but I wish that I had believed it more, and I wish that I'd acted upon it more when I was younger. Because I think, you know, the way that somebody else has done something, it doesn't have to be the way that you do it. And whether that's being employed, being freelance, running your own business, or whether it's things like how you run your own business, how you run your life, your work-life balance, whatever it is, there's, you know, the weight of what you feel you should be doing, I think, is often what holds people back. When in actual fact, if you just sit down and think, well, what do I want to be doing? You know, and what direction do I want to go in, and find a way to do that, I think, is a much better way forward.
Completely agree with you. And the reason why I say that is because if you think about an office environment 15 years ago, there was no one in jeans.
Yeah.
There was no one walking around in trainers. It was women went in skirts and blouses, men went in suits and ties. Somebody at some point had to make the decision or walk into an office in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt and trainers and go, morning.
Yeah.
You know, it just seems the norm now. But 15 years ago, it was if someone turned up in a polo shirt and a pair of slacks, it's like, what are you doing? You know, you wouldn't dare turn up to an appointment without a tie on.
No.
Because you were deemed not to be fit to conduct a meeting. But now, I've literally conducted meetings last year in golf courses in a pair of nice chino shorts and a polo top.
You have flip-flops on?
No, I didn't have flip-flops on. I was
hoping for the flip-flop.
I didn't have golf shoes on either. I actually had trainers on. But I actually made a joke of it when I walked in because the people that I were meeting were in chino shorts and a polo shirt. I said, I'm just trying to blend in. Like I was playing golf.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think that, you know, you saying, you know, there are no rules, you can do and be how you want to be, I think is definitely... if we knew what we knew now and go back in time, things could have evolved a lot quicker and easier. So, yeah, definitely.
My number one piece of advice was actually something that someone said to me. I was at a wedding, family wedding, and my cousin's husband has got a very successful business. And I was telling him, I think I'm making the jump. I'm going to quit my day job. And he said, the number one bit of advice I'll give to you is you've got to back yourself.
Yeah.
100%. Back yourself, trust the process, and go for it. Because, you know, there's no point in doing it half-heartedly, is there? And, you know, I know that comes with work-life balance and things we've talked about as well. But I would just say, if you're going to do it, back yourself 100% and go for it.
Definitely.
You know, you've got to go into it wanting to make a success of it.
Yeah,
if you're going
absolutely.
in a bit like, you know, then you're sort of doomed a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
So that was given to me. So that's what I would pass on as well, I think.
Yeah. I think that's so true. So my brother, when he was younger, he played basketball at a very high level in county, and he went for country as well. And I remember talking to him about, you know, like trash talk. So I think basketball was one of the first sports that we really saw on TV where, you know, kind of that trash talking on the basketball court was a big deal. And I was like, you know, God, isn't that like, do you do that? Like, is it? And my brother was like, of course I do, because if I don't walk onto that court thinking I can win that game, why am I doing it?
Yeah.
And, you know, and I think there's something in that, you know, you've got to go into it thinking, yeah, I've got this. Otherwise, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that transpires into other things like going for sales against competitors and things.
Yeah.
You've got to go in there with that confidence that you're going to win that business. Because if you don't, and you go in half-heartedly and I'm not sure or whatever, you know, they're not going to buy from you.
Yeah.
And I think that does bleed. It's confidence, isn't it? Really, I think again is that key word that's come up again.
Yeah.
So okay, final question. This is a good one, and we have talked about this before, but I think it'd be good to revisit it.
Ben's like instant
Is this
veto.
artificial intelligence just been listening to our podcast? I think it has. Start asking the same
I think it
questions
has.
again.
I think it scrapes the questions from our previous episodes and conversations.
Oh, okay.
What legacy do you hope to leave through your business or contributions to your industry?
Ooh.
What if I don't want to leave a legacy?
That's also fine.
What legacy do I want to leave in my... I don't want to leave one in my industry because I'm not after world domination. So, you know, we're not going to leave a stamp in the industry that says, wow, do you remember that telco company called Bluebell? No. I've already got a legacy. I've got 2 children. So they're my legacy. I wouldn't say that in business, do I really want to leave a legacy? No, because... unless you're in the real limelight and you've done something, you know, out of the ordinary, like, you know, invented the light bulb, are you really going to leave a legacy in an industry? I don't think so.
But I think from a business perspective, you've talked about creating something that your family get involved with, and maybe something that your children could get involved with at a later date. That's all part of leaving a legacy, right? You've created something that...
If I won't know about it, dead and gone.
I think you could be like legacy and retirement. We don't need to kill you off.
Yeah.
I just won't be here, and I won't care. Yeah, I'm gone. I'm not. I don't really want to worry about what may or may not happen after I'm not here. I just want to enjoy the time that I have got. I keep saying it. Time is a commodity. I can't buy it. I can't rent it. I can't borrow it off of you. I can't do anything. It's there. I've just got to utilise what time I have and not worry about what potentially is going to happen when I'm dead and gone, or what people are going to think of me when I'm dead and gone, because I won't care, because I won't be here. Simple as that.
What about you with Move?
Yeah, I don't know. So I think similar but not the same as Ben. I don't think I think about it in those like kind of legacy, because that to me sort of is quite a like one big thing. So I don't think I really think about it. But one thing that I think about a lot in my work is the idea, somebody said this to me once, which is you should always be working to put yourself out of a job. And what they mean by that is you need to be looking to make a step up, and you need to be looking to support the people around you to step into your role. Like, that is what you should be doing. You should always be trying to put yourself out of a job. And I'd like to think about it in that way. I want to run this business, and it doesn't have to be Move. It doesn't have to be this business, but be in my industry or make podcasts or whatever it is, that I work in a way that people that I work with now could step into a space, that I could step up into a space where I'm more recognised for what I do, or however that works. And yeah, I think that's kind of more how I see it. What about you?
Well, I was just going to finish on your bit actually, and say I think the potential within the space that you're in, the potential is massive for Move Digital.
Yeah, you could potentially leave a legacy anyway.
Yeah, I think that the clients that you've got and the market that you're in, you could be the best name in that industry. And I think we've done a bit of research, haven't we? And we've looked at other companies, and they claim to be the UK #1 podcasting agency in the UK, and then we sort of check them out online, and they're turning over, a small amount. I think Move has got so much potential. It's just how far do you want to take it, I suppose, isn't it? But in the industry, I think it could be, you could be the #1 name to go to for podcasts in the UK. I actually believe that. I think
you are at the moment. If you look at the names and brands that you've got on board, there's nobody else that has got anywhere near the calibre of clients that you've got.
Yeah.
Not a patch. Not even a smidge. Not even a smidge. So yeah, I would agree with that. 100%.
But I definitely think, like, for me, like, that is where I'm at in the journey, in that now being managing director, I definitely feel like I've stepped into it in a way that I'm like you just said, that I'm ready to back myself to do this as well. Like, actually, I'm working on projects, and I don't have I have a very good game face. I am very happy to go away and worry about things, but when it comes to actually talking directly to somebody else, I know what I'm going to say, and I'll present that. And I think now, I've had things where people ask me sort of questions, I'm a bit like, are we talking to the person? Like, oh no, you're asking me that question. Whereas now, when people come to me, I'm like, yep, that's great, I've got this, like, let's do it.
I would say, having known you for 6 months, maybe longer, 8 months, seeing Laura grow into the role and what she's doing has been brilliant. It really has. It's been lovely to see. And you've gripped it with both hands, and you're enjoying it as well. And just seeing how you've come out of your shell more and more, and confidence again in what you're doing, and the conversations that you're having with your clients and stuff. I think it's brilliant, really is. So it's all good. But for
you're
me,
leaving a legacy anyway with the ChatGPT.
So they're online now.
It'll be you.
Training large language models.
The legacy that will be on YouTube forever.
We have actually left a legacy.
Absolutely. Yay.
I think in terms of legacy, you could look at it like, what does that mean 2, 3, 4, 500 years down the line? But I think in terms of leaving a legacy, I think it's just leaving a a business that people enjoyed working for, you know, that will tell their children or grandchildren, I used to work in IT and I worked for this really nice company that went through a nice period of growth. It was great to work for, and the feedback that we get for our clients is great, you know, and that would satisfy me to the T. And that's probably the biggest reward that I get from running a business is good feedback from clients about the work we're doing and the team that are doing the work. That's the most rewarding thing. And I think that for me is a legacy in itself. I think contributions to the industry, again, I think it's very, very difficult because there are so many managed IT service providers out there. There's so many companies doing cybersecurity. AI, you know, is the new thing, which we're obviously utilising here.
Which Ben is embracing.
yeah,
Look
which-
at him.
Oh,
He's so
I love
happy.
the AI. It's so much fun.
I think, but being well known maybe locally as the number one IT provider in the local area or something like that would be nice, and build a really good brand and business that when people think IT solutions or we need IT support, you're one of the first names that come to mind for bigger companies. So, you know, that's what I think really. So there we go. That's all the questions from ChatGPT.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I think we've done well. So we hope you've enjoyed it. Ben clearly has had no fun at all. But yeah, thank you for joining us again. Like and subscribe so that you hear all about our next episode.